Charles Kuralt had a knack for reminding America of its human side. The CBS newsman died Friday in New York, but left his road.
Charles Kuralt was more than a television reporter. To millions of Americans, he was a calm and gentle presence who reminded them that goodness still existed in the world. In an age when TV news was filled with wars, protests, and political arguments, Kuralt's stories were different. He didn't chase breaking news or flashy headlines. Instead, he went searching for quiet corners of the country, places where ordinary people were doing extraordinary things. His soft, thoughtful voice and slow storytelling style became his signature. When Charles appeared on screen, people felt they were in safe hands. He made viewers stop, breathe, and see the beauty of small things. A child's laughter, a farmer's hard work, or an old couple's love. His stories weren't just news. They were little pieces of America's soul. Kuralt showed that journalism could touch hearts as well as inform minds, and that every person, no matter how unknown, had a story worth telling. Charles Bishop Kuralt was born on September 10, 1934, in Wilmington, North Carolina. His childhood was full of curiosity and wonder. His father, Wallace, worked for the welfare department and believed deeply in helping others, while his mother, Ina, was a schoolteacher who taught him the beauty of words. From a young age, Charles was fascinated by stories. He read newspapers out loud, listened to radio programs, and wrote little pieces about his neighborhood. One of his favorite hobbies was flying homemade kites made from old newspapers. He once joked that his kites flew so high, even God could read the headlines. Those moments, watching paper and string rise into the blue Carolina sky, shaped his imagination and love for simple pleasures. Though his family didn't have much money, they had books, laughter, and strong values. This upbringing would later become the emotional foundation for his life's work, finding beauty in ordinary people and moments that others ignored. When Charles entered high school, his gift for words became clear. He wrote for the school newspaper, often telling stories about everyday events with a warmth that made readers smile. At just 14 years old, he won a writing contest run by a local paper. His winning piece was about small-town life, a topic he would return to many times in his career. After finishing school, Kuralt attended the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where his real journey as a storyteller began. He joined the campus newspaper, the Daily Tar Heel, and quickly became one of its most talented reporters. His articles showed both curiosity and compassion, two traits that would define his professional identity. One of his professors once said, "Charles doesn't just write stories, he writes people." Even in college, he believed that everyone had something interesting to share, if only someone took the time to listen. His belief in human dignity was not taught in a classroom. It came from the way he saw the world. After graduating, Kuralt began working at the Charlotte News as a reporter. He was ambitious, sharp, and deeply committed to his craft. Yet, even then, he disliked the competitive and fast-paced side of news. While other reporters wanted to cover scandals or big events, Charles preferred stories about the human spirit, the kind of tales that were often ignored by the front page. His early writing was full of color, humor, and empathy. Readers loved his style, and soon larger networks noticed his talent. In the 1950s, he joined CBS News, where he covered major stories from around the world. But something was missing. He felt restless chasing breaking news that lacked heart. War zones, political fights, and disasters filled the screen, but Kuralt longed for something quieter and more meaningful. That desire would soon lead him to create something entirely new, a kind of journalism that would change American television forever. In 1967, CBS gave Charles Kuralt an idea that would define his life: a van, a small camera crew, and complete freedom to travel anywhere in America to find good stories. He called it On the Road. For more than 2 decades, Kuralt and his crew traveled through every state, driving over 1 million miles. They stayed in tiny motels, ate at roadside diners, and met people from all walks of life: farmers, fishermen, teachers, veterans, and dreamers. His stories didn't depend on fame or tragedy. Instead, they focused on kindness, creativity, and resilience. He once said, "There are no unimportant stories, only stories that haven't been told well enough." Each episode reminded viewers that America's strength wasn't just in its big cities or powerful leaders, but in the quiet decency of its everyday people. On the Road became one of the most loved series in TV history. When Kuralt's van appeared on screen, audiences knew they were about to see something special, something that made them feel proud to be human. What made Charles Kuralt special was his way of seeing the world. His voice was calm, his smile genuine, and his curiosity endless. He didn't rush interviews. He listened deeply. He made people feel seen and respected, no matter who they were. Viewers often said that when Charles spoke, it felt like he was talking directly to them, not as a reporter, but as a friend. His stories showed that television didn't have to be loud or dramatic to be powerful. His words carried truth and comfort. In one segment, he told the story of a man who fixed shoes for 60 years, saying, "He may not have made headlines, but he made life easier for everyone who walked in." That was Kuralt's genius, turning ordinary life into poetry. He believed journalism should bring people together, not tear them apart. In a world filled with noise, Charles Kuralt's quiet voice became a symbol of decency and hope. While Charles Kuralt was loved on screen, off-screen he was deeply private. He avoided Hollywood glamour and rarely talked about his personal life. To the public, he seemed like a simple man devoted entirely to storytelling and travel. He was married to Suzanne P.T. Baird, and people assumed he lived a modest, peaceful life when not on the road. Yet behind that calm image, Kuralt carried a secret that few could have imagined. For nearly 3 decades, he lived a double life. While his family and colleagues believed he was traveling for work, he was also spending part of his life with another woman, Pat Shannon, a schoolteacher he met while filming in Montana. With her, he found the quiet domestic happiness he often spoke about in his stories. They shared a cabin near the Big Hole River, fishing, cooking, and enjoying the solitude of nature. For Kuralt, it was a private world away from fame and responsibility. But secrets, no matter how carefully kept, eventually find their way to light. When Charles Kuralt died in 1997 at the age of 62, the nation mourned him as one of its most beloved journalists. Tributes poured in from every corner of America. People spoke of his warmth, his wisdom, and the way he made the country feel united. But only weeks later, a shocking truth surfaced. A woman named Pat Shannon came forward, revealing that she had shared a long, secret relationship with Kuralt. She presented letters written by him, in which he promised her love, support, and even property. These letters exposed a hidden part of his life, a second home, a second relationship, and a second version of Charles Kuralt that few knew existed. The discovery stunned fans and even close colleagues. How could the man who celebrated honesty and human goodness have lived a lie? Some felt disappointed, while others saw it as proof that even kind and wise people have flaws. His story became a powerful reminder that human beings are complex, capable of both great kindness and quiet contradictions. Despite the controversy, Charles Kuralt's legacy remains remarkable. His storytelling changed the face of television journalism. He taught the world that news could also be about hope, laughter, and love. He inspired generations of journalists to look beyond headlines and find meaning in ordinary lives. Schools, libraries, and journalism programs continue to honor his name. Even today, his on-the-road episodes are studied for their warmth and humanity. Yet his personal story adds another layer to his legacy. It reminds us that greatness and imperfection often live side by side. Kuralt's secret didn't erase his contributions. It made them more human. The man who found beauty in others was also searching for peace within himself. His life shows that even those who tell stories of truth sometimes struggle with their own. In the end, he gave the world not just stories, but lessons about love, honesty, and the complexity of being human. Looking back, Charles Kuralt's journey feels like one of his own stories, full of beauty, contradiction, and quiet wisdom. He spent his life traveling roads that led to other people's homes, yet he also built roads that led into our hearts. His gentle curiosity changed the way Americans saw themselves and each other. Though his secret life surprised many, it didn't erase the kindness he spread or the peace he brought through his words. Kuralt once said, "Thanks to the interstate highway system, it is now possible to travel across the country from coast to coast without seeing anything." That quote sums up his philosophy: to slow down, to notice, and to care. Today, when life moves faster than ever, his message feels more important than ever. Take time to listen, to see, and to understand. Charles Kuralt's road may have ended, but the stories he told and the lessons he left behind will keep guiding travelers for generations. Charles Kuralt's storytelling wasn't just journalism, it was art. He could take the simplest event and turn it into something unforgettable. If a blacksmith was making horseshoes, Charles wouldn't focus on the metal or the hammer. He'd focus on the man's hands, the rhythm of his work, and what it said about patience and tradition. He had an instinct for what made people interesting. Instead of asking hard questions, he let people talk. He knew that silence often said more than words. When he edited his stories, he avoided flashy effects or dramatic music. Instead, he trusted the power of human voices and genuine emotions. He often said, "If you want people to listen, tell them something they already know, but tell it beautifully." That was his gift. Viewers didn't just watch his stories, they felt them. He showed them that beauty was everywhere, in laughter, in loss, in old barns, in open fields. In a way, Charles Kuralt taught America how to see again. The making of On the Road was not easy. Kuralt and his small crew spent long weeks traveling in an RV across thousands of miles. There was no GPS, no internet, and no fixed schedule. They often relied on locals to guide them to the next story. Sometimes they would arrive in a small town with no idea what they would film. They'd stop at gas stations, diners, or local fairs asking, "Who around here does something unusual?" That's how they found gold. Stories about a man who carved wooden angels, a woman who baked pies for truck drivers, or a retired teacher who built a playground for neighborhood kids. The team worked with minimal equipment, yet the results looked timeless. Kuralt believed that great storytelling didn't depend on money or technology. It depended on heart. His producer once said, "We didn't plan the stories. We discovered them." That sense of discovery gave On the Road its charm. Every episode felt like a journey, not just through America, but through the human spirit. During the 1970s and 1980s, On the Road became one of CBS's most cherished segments. At a time when television was full of crime reports, political debates, and economic worries, Kuralt's stories felt like a breath of fresh air. Millions of viewers tuned in each week to see who he would meet next. Farmers, mechanics, artists, and children all became stars in his world. He showed that life's value didn't depend on fame or wealth. People began writing to CBS, saying how his stories made them cry, smile, or call an old friend. In a country divided by politics and social change, Kuralt's gentle storytelling helped people feel connected again. Many families even said they would gather together to watch On the Road, calling it a window to kindness. Kuralt himself never claimed to be changing the world, but he did, in quiet ways. He reminded Americans that decency was still alive, that laughter still mattered, and that every small act of goodness could shine like a headline. Over his long career, Charles Kuralt received many honors for his work. He won several Emmy Awards, 2 Peabody Awards, and the National Press Foundation's Lifetime Achievement Award. But to him, the real reward was hearing from the people he met. He didn't care much for trophies or fame. In fact, he avoided the spotlight whenever he could. He was happiest when sitting by a campfire with a cup of coffee, listening to others share their stories. His colleagues often said he was a man who felt more comfortable on a dirt road than a red carpet. Even as he became one of America's most recognizable journalists, he stayed humble. He never lost that small-town curiosity that started his journey. "I am not interested in power," he once said. "I am interested in people." That simple statement summed up everything about him. His career wasn't built on ambition, it was built on empathy. And that's why his name still stands out in journalism today. Despite all his success, Kuralt carried a secret that grew heavier with time. Balancing 2 lives, one public, one private, wasn't easy.